Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we are continuing moving some stuff around, and I already moved the rack that was here over here to prep for the new tank. And so this week I want to move the rack or the tanks that are inside the office out here temporarily, so that when we get the new tank, we can, you know, set it up in there, let it cycle, and have, you know, everything kind of prepped and moved, and so that way I don't have to rush the cycle process and everything inside. And then these guys would be out here and established for a while. So the only thing that I am concerned about is during the summer months, which, you know, we're really far out, so I think we'll be okay, is it gets hot out here, and so the temperatures will, you know, be a little bit higher than normal. But right now it's still like springish, so I think that will be okay. You know, I'll just keep the garage door open during the hot days or whatever, and I'll probably end up like cracking the tops so that airflow and temperatures can kind of be released out of the tank. But like I said, I moved all of this rack over here, and, you know, just kind of by myself, and it took a little bit of shimmying. And also I had to move this rack across a little bit because of my breaker box over here. So this shelf here was sitting like right like here, where I can't access this if I need to take this apart to replace like one of these breakers. I couldn't like access this thing with this one here like in the way, so I had to like take down some of this stuff and like push it like a little bit over, maybe like 2 inches or something like that. That way I can have this in here without having it blocked. And that's why we don't have a shelf in the middle here, is so that I can access that breaker box anytime. But yeah, so it's, you know, put together, you know, as best as I can right now. I'll probably, you know, reorganize whatever, but yeah, things are looking nice right now. I want to move everything all in one go, kind of within an hour or 2 hours, and then kind of just refill the system. So I have a bunch of these garbage bins. I have 3 of them, and they should hold most of the volume of the rack, and the rest that isn't going to be held by this, it'll be like a kind of like a larger water change is what I'm going to, you know, put that under. Is like just maybe like a slightly larger water change, because we're gonna have to fill in the rest of the water. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do is when I'm ready, because I'm gonna have my dad come over to help me move the tank, I'm gonna drain basically everything into here. We have 3 of these guys. We got 1 here. We got 2 over here. This is the one I use for my fresh water, so I'll probably end up using this to kind of dump some of the water. We got buckets too. We have like a 5-gallon bucket and a couple like smaller ones that we can put the fish in or whatever temporarily. Yeah, so that's the plan, and we'll see how the move goes. Alrighty, the lights are just turning on, but I wanted to show you guys what we're having to work with. A lot of algae on the wall, but we'll probably end up draining the water all the way down as low as possible. Maybe I'll dig out some of this here, same here, and just drain as much as possible. We'll keep the sand in here just because the tank is kind of light. We'll pick them all up and we'll move them. If it's a little bit too heavy, we'll end up having to probably remove like half the sand or something like that. We'll remove all the rocks, all the fish and stuff like that. We'll move out. These guys, I think I'll keep them in there. We'll see how heavy the tank is with the sand. If it's too heavy, like I said, we'll have to remove everything, and we'll kind of go from there. This is a bare bottom, so I don't have to worry about anything. We'll just remove all the rocks, and then we'll just drain the water into those bins, and we'll be good to go. Down here we do have some sand in the sumps, so that might be a little heavy, but it's acrylic, so that shouldn't be too bad. I'm just a little bit more concerned about these 2 guys here. We got the first bucket here. We got 2 5-gallons here, where we're going to put the anemone and the livestock in here for now. Obviously, the anemones and corals in here may need to go into the bigger buckets. I'm probably going to use one of the bigger buckets for this section here. These guys here, we'll probably split them between these 2 buckets here for the top. And yeah, and then the sump is just Shado, so we'll just put Shado somewhere else along with some of the media, probably in one of these buckets here. So yeah, so let's start draining. Well, as I was dumping in the macroalgae, the other 5-gallon bucket had a hole under the bottom. It was like leaking water everywhere. So looks like we're down to just 1 5-gallon bucket here. All right, we are back in business. I found another 5-gallon that was just floating around. This was actually an old like salt 5-gallon bucket. Fill that up and let's continue. We had trying to wipe as much of this water off as possible so we won't slip later when we move the tank. But yeah, let's continue. Alright, let's take a look. Everyone looks like they're doing good. We got sponge filters that I had in there just floating, so I'm just going to toss them in there. I'm going to fill up the water a little bit more, and then going to move them to a different location in the house and just kind of keep them relatively good for in terms of temperature. But yeah, with the anemones, the fish, they look good. They'll be okay in this bucket for a few hours. Alright, so let's roll this up and move them. And we'll start draining the tank. We'll probably get clean water from here, move all these guys into one of the bins, and then start taking some of these because I kind of stirred up the stand a bit because I was trying to push some of the stand back because I want to drain as far as possible down here. Alrighty, so we have this tank drain. We're kind of afraid that the weight of the sand is going to be too heavy. So I'm going to remove half of the sand. I'm going to use the shop vac to remove the remaining amount of water. Same thing here. I left half of it because the other bucket bin was getting full. Same thing here. We'll have to shop back this because I can't get the siphon hose to start there again. And then we still have the sump that we need to do. So I'm going to start putting some of the sand in here. Same thing with this once we kind of get it drained down. All right, success. We got the first 2 tanks off of here, no problem. Ended up having to remove about half of the sand in the tanks just because it was a little bit too heavy, and plus I was eventually going to remove the sand and tear down the tank anyway, so I was like, might as well do half of it right now. That way I don't have to do it later. This tank is fully drained. It has a little bit of water. So next we're going to remove the overflow box, the lights, and then we're going to push this tank out this way and get that out. And then the sump is also drained. I just used a pump to pump out as much water as possible. It's going to be kind of light anyways because it's acrylic, so I'm not too worried about that. We just need to unscrew some of these stuff here and then we're good to go. Alright, we got the rack out here. My dad's out here helping me clean this up. It's a little bit wider out here because I want to have access to the plumbing. It's only going to be temporary, so I'm not too worried about distance from here. Once, you know, everything's ready inside, it's going to be moved inside anyways, and it's going to be torn down, and I'm going to probably end up selling the 33 and the tank on the top plus the sump and pushing this against the wall and using it as storage. So I'm not too worried there. Here's the tank. Here's the livestock. Look at them. They're happy, chilling in here. Got them all over here. Here's the other tank. Half of the sand is taken out. The sump's over here. Then we got the last bit of the fish over here. And I forgot about this guy here. There's more water there. So it looks like after I fill everything back up, it's going to be probably like a 30% water change. That's what this look like it's going to be. So I made some extra RO water for this. But yeah, so let's put everything back together. We got the tanks all back in place. Now it's just doing the plumbing. We are rinsing off some of the excess salt and just making sure that everything's kind of somewhat clean to go back. We'll probably end up scraping this tank later on once it kind of starts back up. But yeah, everything is back in place. It's just plumbing now. Let's go. Alrighty, so we got the sump filled with water. We got the 33-gallon filled about half. We put the fish, the corals back in. Now we got to fill the rest of these guys up top here, about half-half. So it's actually looking more like a 50% water change, 40-50% water change. All right, almost there. We got the fish in, the anemones in. I put some prime in all of the tanks to make sure that they're good. And now the water change is going to start. So I'm gonna start filling these guys up. It's gonna take a while to do all this water change. So yeah, I'm probably gonna mix everything in like a giant bin and then pump it back in, so that way it's way faster. All right, so I got the giant bin, mixed borrowed water and salt. Everything looks good. So let's go ahead and start pumping the first bin back into the tank, and yeah, we'll start it up. We'll probably need maybe 2 of these bins, maybe a bin and a half, I'm thinking. We'll see. We got the lights back on the tank. As you can see, it's still cloudy. We are still mixing the bin right there behind us, and we'll fill that up in a second. The sump has lights. A little bit cloudy, but not too bad. Looks like, you know, the anemones are doing fine over here. I can't really tell in here because it's so cloudy from all the sand, but it looks like they're going to be okay. The line looks like it's going to be okay there, so not much more water to transfer in. We should be pretty close here. But everything looks like it's doing good. I'm checking for leaks still. It looks like everything over here looks fine in terms of no leaks. I'll have to wipe it down one more time just to make sure. I don't see any new fresh water down here. Finally, we have everything plumbed in. We'll just let it settle in. Huge water change. I would say like close to 50% for sure. So hopefully the corals like it. If not, we're gonna have a lot of splits from these anemones. But yeah, we'll let these guys settle in. All right, so this is the next day, and the light has just turned on. I did scrape some of the algae off the wall, so you can actually see how the tank is right now. For the most part, it looks like, you know, they're doing pretty good. The anemones are kind of retracted back a little bit, as expected, just because these guys went through a bunch of water changes. We had some of the coralline algae in the back kind of die, so there's certain spots that are dying right here. This one looks like it's fine for the most part. There's some spots here that kind of died back, but it's pretty good. Fish are happy. Fish are chilling. Looking good. Down here, the anemones are looking like, you know, these guys actually look better than the ones up top here. So we'll see. We'll just give them time to recover. No rush on the recovery time here. All these guys are just opening up, just because, like I said, the lights are just turning on right now. So we won't know how they fully look or react. Fish, you know, they're looking really happy. Looks like a lot of these, you know, they have different phases here. You see kind of, this is like more of like a yellow, orange, and these younger ones here, they're a bit more on the red side. So it's pretty cool. Other than that, everything else looks like it's kind of settling in. The sand and whatnot, it's starting to not be as cloudy, because, you know, yesterday, whew, it's pretty cloudy. And before I let you guys go here, I've also been working on the aquascape of the new tank here. So I have a little measure bar to kind of keep an idea of where the height is. It's going to be 16 inches. It's going to be the height of the tank. So I built everything around like a little bit around 12 inches or so, because I want to try some SPS down the road once it's a little bit more established. Starting probably with Monty caps at some of these tops here, and kind of letting it grow out. But to kind of give you an idea of what the scape is like, this is what I'm going for, kind of like a lot more like arches so that the fish can kind of swim through. And I made it into a couple of different pieces here. So I have one big piece here, another big piece here that kind of combines with this, and then these two kind of go together. And this right now, the skate box I have is only 4 feet. So I still have another 2 feet, basically a foot from each side to kind of play with. And then the width is about, you know, the width of the water box. This is 24 and the water box is 25. So we have like a little bit a wiggle room to play with. But right now it's not orientated the way that I have it. So give me a second here. Let me kind of mess around with this, and I'll show you what I'm looking at right now. All right, so I kind of like rearranged it to show you guys how it's going to look in the tank. This one here, this piece here, because it's not connected, because I have it into different pieces here, as you can see. I'm gonna have this connect here to kind of have a mini arch. But I think I'm gonna have this a little bit more to the right side and maybe on an angle so that this comes in somewhere here. So it kind of makes like a middle arch. So if I move this here, just because I don't have room here, I'm thinking that this would be kind of like something like this, right? And you have kind of like a middle arch that's kind of open, and then maybe if you had some of the caps or the Monty caps here, will kind of cover this area here. And then you kind of have like, you know, caves that can kind of go in between. This right here, I think I'm gonna have it up front here. This is one piece here, but I'm gonna have it combine or close to this here so that it makes an arch or a bridge, so they can go under here, they can kind of go under here. And then this one, like I said, it's gonna be kind of out here because we still have a foot to play with. And then it's gonna be a lot of open areas in front here, here, and maybe on the side, because I'm gonna have probably like islands. I'm gonna have islands or something like this, to either have the anemones on or some other corals. I think it's maybe like a island of like a GSP. That would be pretty nice. And it kind of sits like either here or somewhere in the open over here. And that way we can have some different other corals up front as well. Now I didn't want to put too much rock in the tank because I want to have more room for corals and also more room for the fish to kind of swim around. And so kind of look up here, big arches, right? Fish can kind of swim in between. A lot of areas where, you know, we can kind of push flow through. It won't kind of get blocked. That's what I was kind of thinking of as well. There's a lot of these bases here where we can have like different corals, or maybe like, you know, maybe like if like an anemone decides to sit here, because the anemone is going to move around. That's for sure. And they might end up like sitting around here, sitting around there, you know. We'll see what they do. This one here, I was kind of thinking of making like another arch kind of extending out here, but then I was like, you know what? You know, we don't want to make too many arches because then we'll have a lot of shadows down here just in case if we have, you know, random corals that kind of grow over. If we had different SPS, we can kind of stick them here and they'll kind of like, you know, take this side here. But also I was thinking that I didn't want to make it too high, or maybe I made it too high where now we only have maybe like, you know, 5 inches of growth vertical from the top there. Maybe we'll see. It's still kind of low. Maybe some of these height ones we'll kind of leave empty, and then we'll kind of put the corals on the like the lower shelf down here somewhere. We'll see. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Everything is cemented together already, as best as I can, and then we kind of use that whole, you know, cement on here. What I'm gonna do next is once I kind of like, yeah, you know, this is it. You know, I'm not gonna change anything else. I'm going to rinse everything down, wash it down, and kind of let it sit. Just because these are brand new rocks, and some of these are old rocks as well. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. Like always, thanks guys. Peace.